We've heard a lot tonight about funding. School funding is a major concern, and we talk about it all the time. The state of Missouri has consistently underfunded the school formula. And this year, Governor Greitens has already cut transportation money. So we need to talk about funding and the financial condition that the Holden schools are in. We have to ask ourselves what we can do as a school board member to address the funding situation that we have. So I'm just going to start, Tanya, with you. Have you thought about how you would work toward the financial funding for the school?
Well, as a current citizen, not a school board member, I only have access to the budget at the 30,000-foot view, like everyone else, as it sits on the webpage. So I can't see what's going on down in the weeds of the budget, which is where the cuts would need to take place. What I can say is that the entire purpose of this district, the entire purpose of its existence, is to educate the children. So when those tough questions do have to get asked with regard to where is the money going to come from, it is incumbent upon the board to always consider what is best for the children. It is also incumbent on the board to make sure that we are very focused on supporting our educators, on making sure that they have the tools they need in the classroom, and on making sure that we do everything we can to retain those people that we've worked so hard to attract and build. I just think that is very important. And at the same time, we have that huge responsibility of deciding where are these monies going to go. The state's getting tight, they're cutting here and there, and we have to be responsible stewards of the money that you all work so hard for and that our government takes out to fund public education. So again, not being able to get down into the weeds, I can't speak to specific areas where I think change could be made. But I do know that as someone who is not on the board at this time, I will go through many classes. I'm prepared to do that. And I am prepared through my experience dealing with legislators and regulators in my day-to-day job to be a voice for this community and for this school.
Bill, I want to talk about voucher system. Our federal secretary of education is very high on the voucher system, with her explanation being that every child should have a choice of where they attend school. It is also gaining some traction in our state. There is legislation proposed that we move to a voucher system. You've been on the school board. Can you tell us how you think a voucher system, if it were to be enacted, would affect the Holden schools?
Sure. So if children and parents are given the choice to choose which school district they would choose to go to, the challenge would be for students that are closer to other districts. I live 5 miles from the Sherwood School District, but I choose and I want my children to go here. So I wouldn't change my decision, but I know other parents would. So as a community and as a school district, we need to make sure that the product that we provide these students here are something that they want to be here. They want to be in Holden. They're proud of being a Holden Eagle. That's why they're here. That's why their parents went to school here and they brought their kids here. So I think the product that we provide here locally is strong enough that we would still keep the kids that are in our district. They would not want to go to others and try to see what's out there, because I think what they have today is strong enough to keep them in this district. I think there's enough pull. The academics are strong here, the sports are strong here, the community involvement is strong with the parents. So I don't think that we would see a large amount of students leaving the district. I think there might be a few on the fringes that make more financial sense to those parents that live closer to Lee Summit or live closer to Lone Jack. But overall, I think we have a good hub here, and we can keep a lot of our students and parents in this district.
But you are aware, since being on the board, that funding is based on enrollment. And when there is a decrease in enrollment, we have a loss of funds. And this is just another way to chip away. It's a possibility of what might happen, and the school board needs to be aware of it. Let me also say then, Michael, I would like for you to talk the same kind of thing. There are charter schools in the Kansas City area and the St. Louis area. They are now proposing at the state level that charter schools be allowed in all of our districts. Can you address what might happen if we had a charter school that would be established in the Holden district?
Currently, charter schools are not regulated by the state as heavily as the public schools are. And so it can create some issues. Bottom line, education for the children could suffer tremendously because of that lack of regulation. And so I think it's important when we look at charter schools and how they play a part, you know, a lot of the Kansas City charter schools that they have there, they're really, they love those charter schools because the academics in the Kansas City school district so low that charter schools are rising above that with the smaller class numbers and so forth. But it's really not a good comparison to your rural public school districts, because your rural public school districts can provide a better education in so many different ways than a charter school can, and offer more opportunities for those children as well. And so I think it's important for us to understand that charter schools is not the magic bullet to fix public education like the legislators believe it is. And we need to make sure that we are the voice with Jefferson City and making sure they understand we do not agree with this and we don't want this to occur, because I do believe that the majority of people, like Bill said, want to stay in the district they're in, and they're not looking to bail. On the other side of that, I also think that you know, we are going to lose a few if that system were to be put in place, but at the same time, I think we would gain a few too. So I can't really sit here and say that we would be hurt by it. We actually might be helped by it, because there's a lot of other small rural districts around us that their children, they might want their children to go to Holden because there's more academic opportunity and there's more extracurricular activity when it comes to sports and other activities. So.
But charter schools are public schools.
Charter schools, yeah, yes.
They are. The thing that is of concern is that charter schools can be established by private companies and
Right.
still be public schools.
Right.
I'm glad to hear you say that you're aware of it, it's a concern, and as a school board member, generating in that relationship with Jefferson City, with the legislature, to let them know how you feel is going to be critical.
Absolutely.
I want to move just a little bit here. Ray,
but that goes back to your other question, is the priority of the school board has to be to set the standards and keep the quality of the education at the highest standard, regardless of the budgetary pressures. So there's hard choices to be made as you set those priorities, and part of that is monitoring programs like one-to-one. But it's any other program, and you know, there's a lot of pressure to go with the latest fad, when in fact, it may be you stick with what addresses the needs of the students first. And look at that, and especially look at that in hard budget times. The same goes to your other question, is if you maintain those high standards, whether you're competing with a charter school or you're competing with vouchers, it becomes a competition. And number one, you gotta have the product to talk about, and then number two, you gotta fight for that product. And that's the role of the board outward, not inward doing all the day-to-day business stuff. But you gotta work with the legislatures, and it's state and county. I mean, Holden School District is a key economic driver for the future economic development in western Johnson County. And the school board's got to keep emphasizing that. And that way you get everybody pushing on the legislatures that have funding. So that's, I mean, that's, whether you're building a program budget or you're working the school budget, a lot of it is public relations and working the power brokers that get to the person with the money.
Bill, I want to go back to you just a minute on the one-to-one initiative, because I think you mentioned your interest in STEM. Do you feel that the one-to-one initiative is actually addressing STEM? And
Yeah.
if so, in what way?
Yes.
And has it been measured yet? It's only been a short time.
Oh, sure, yes. So we've seen already teachers come in and provide updates on how they're utilizing the technology. So even in school board meetings, the students will come in, have the laptops in hand, they're able to wireless connect, show their PowerPoint presentation, show how they're making videos. All those things will help them in the future as far as getting jobs, and interviewing, know how to use those computer skills. Everything is going to typing now, so the keyboarding is even being utilized in elementary school age. Typing when I was in school wasn't done until high school. Now these children learn how to keyboard because nobody's writing out documents anymore. It's all electronic. So the earlier they understand and use technology, the better they're going to be prepared in the future. So I feel like we are utilizing it well. We're monitoring the teachers. We actually had the teachers propose a initiative for them to say how they want to use the technology in their classrooms. So they came to us and said, hey, this is how we want to use them. We thought it was great. We'll monitor that. We'll see how it's being used properly. The teachers are being trained on how to use it in their classrooms. The teachers are getting better prepared, and it's a better product to help the children in their studies. It's not an end-all be-all, but it is a tool to help facilitate engagement of students in learning.
Tanya, let me go back to you a minute, because Holden has established as a school system their primary goal of meeting the state standards to prepare the students for either college or the world of work. How will you, as a school board member, foster that agreement that they have, or the goal that they have, and how will you attempt to measure that?
Well, as I said earlier, the main function of the district is education, and every agenda item at the school board meeting, everything that we do is for the purposes of educating the children. Student achievement is obviously very, very important, and it's something that the district focuses on. They have the comprehensive school improvement plan. They have many things that they do to make sure they're staying on target. One of the places where I feel like Holden, and any district for that matter, could do a better job, and one of the places where my heart rests because of the struggles that my children personally have, is with children that don't meet the mark, children that can't make the grade, the children that in some cases are being left behind. I think that every student should have the ability to succeed regardless of their ability. And I bring the perspective of a parent who walks in the shoes every day as a parent of children who struggle. And I can tell you that it's a good perspective to have, because I see the other side of it. I see the side of the children that are below basic and aren't proficient and aren't reaching the top scores. And I think it's important to have someone with their finger on that pulse on the school board that can make sure that those children are not ignored and that those children are not left behind. And so that's my passion, that's where my heart is, and that's what I hope to bring, one of the many things I hope to bring to the Holden School District as a member of the board.
And are we talking about special needs children, or are we just talking about children who are behind?
I think, you have many children that have individualized education plans. I think there's 200 in the district right now. But you have many children that go through those series of tests that are done, and they simply don't qualify. And then you're left to wonder, okay, they don't qualify for any special services, yet, it's a third grader who can't write a paragraph. That scares me as a parent. I think as a parent, as a community member, it is incumbent upon us as a community to come together, as a school district to come together and make sure that those children, yes, that they can type on a keyboard, but they can also write a paragraph. They can read and they can write and they can do those basic things. And I think sometimes We try so hard to meet the newest trend and the newest thing and the newest technology, which I do believe is extremely important. But I think sometimes we miss those fundamentals, and I think we need to make sure that we're not losing sight of that. So no, it's not just the special needs children, who obviously are very important and have the right to the education, but it's also the children that are just barely not making it, and they fall through the cracks. And you know, every student has the right to that education and should be able to succeed, and so that's where my heart is.
And could you help in any way address that situation as a school board member?
Well, you know, as a school board, one of the main things that you do is you set the district's mission, and you set the district policy, and you work to deal with employment issues. You say, you have some say in who's here. You hire the superintendent, which we just hired a new good one, so that's great. I think that as someone who has experience in my current job, I have lots of experience working with legislators, working with regulators. I have much experience in policy writing, policy implementation, which is a big job of the school board. I think that I lend that skill set, I can bring that skill set to the board, and then as the issues are brought to me as a member of the board, I will be able to put that skill set to work for the betterment of the students.
We've been talking about the academic side of our schools. That's what it's all about. But there's also a healthy balance between the academic side and the extracurricular activities, which also address the needs of children. Ray, let's go to you. What role does the board give to the system in trying to establish that healthy balance between the two?
I think the mission is to educate the students and produce a healthy, productive citizen. So if you have to make hard choices, then it's going to be on the academic side. But it kind of goes to what Tanya was saying. We're producing well-rounded young adults is what our goal is. And a lot of that is the group interaction that comes from those extracurricular activities. It is also where you get what I got out of the Holden school system was a sense of integrity, a sense of desiring to have community involvement and the importance of your role in the community, and critical thinking. And a lot of that is very hard to measure on those tests. But those tests are there, and we have to work with that, and it's to everybody's benefit to have them, everybody work towards them. So that goes to the people, but I digress to the last question. So back to the extracurricular activities, you know, every one of those students is unique, a unique young adult. And having an environment where not only are they achieving academically, but they're proud to be part of that group, that's the good part of extracurricular activities. And working with the board, you just have to set those balances. But again, if you have to make hard choices, it comes back to teaching and the academics.
Is there any extracurricular activity that you think should be added or subtracted? What would you cut if you got to the situation where you didn't have the money and had to go strictly academic? What extracurricular activities might you cut?
I think I would have to look at the particulars of the situation. There's no one area that I would, because it's such a diverse group of young adults and you need to attract them all. I guess in the hard choices, you just have to look at participation and, you know, bang for the buck of what you get out of funding that extracurricular activity.
That's a good answer. I just think that we're all faced with it. Let me give you an example. Mike, I want you to respond to this. Our extracurricular activities, we all think are important. But what is happening is that in order to participate in an activity, and I'm just going to use a sports team as an example, we find that we are asking the parents and the students to buy their own jerseys, to buy their own warm-ups, to go out and, whether it's sell popcorn in order to have something. Just tell me what you think about that as it increases in our schools. And I think it's going on everywhere. I'm not picking on Holden. But I think that to support the extracurricular activities that we have, it appears that we're placing more of the responsibility for that activity on the parents. Mike?
Well, I think the school board here has prioritized academics as being the most important thing.
Yes.
And so, with that said, when you start making cuts, you try to make cuts where you're not getting away from offering that program or that extracurricular activity, but you have to put more financial responsibility on the parents in order to continue that financial or that extracurricular activity. And so I don't have a problem with that, because I would much rather see the parents pay more for their child to play than for us to cut a special ed teacher, or for us to cut a math teacher or an English teacher. You know, and if their child really wants to play, and they really want their child to play, then even though they grumble about it, and I'm one of those parents that's grumbled about it before, you still do it because it's for your kid, you know? And that's one of the things that we've gotten away from, and what we need to keep in mind. It's not the school district's job to raise your children. And if you want them to be a part of something, then you're gonna have to invest in their future. And you shouldn't expect, because you pay school taxes, that the school is investing in their future, and all you have to do is pay your annual tax. And so I see no problem with the parents having to share that responsibility. Like I said, I'd much rather see that than us cut somewhere academically and a kid suffer in their academics because we wanted to overfund an extracurricular activity.
Bill, do you want to address that?
Sure. Another way we do that is engaging booster clubs and parents. So if parents are passionate about these activities, you know, they're engaging in fundraisers, whether they're in the concession stands, helping to have money for their organizations. So there's a lot of things the football program does that comes through the volunteers of our parents. So I know the parents are willing to step up. So when they hear their shortfalls in certain activities, you'll hear parents grumbling, hey, let's come together, let's make a booster club, and let's help facilitate those needs. So they step up. It also helps that the parents meet one another and gain groups that they've never met before. So sometimes it's not a bad thing to have them step up and help, support the
Right.
As well as the students. You know, the future business leaders, they realize there's no free lunch, and they're gonna have their extracurricular activities. They need to get out and be part of the community. And likewise, they do a very good job of lobbying the community to support them and make sure the community's part of their education.
Is there any business here that does not have a solicitor every day?
Yeah. We don't have too many. They definitely don't walk in. But I wanted to
You
add.
gotta start now, baby.
Yeah. I wanted to add something to that, though, and something that Bill said is it does bring parents together. And you know, everybody has heard that statement before, that it takes a village to raise a child. And there's a lot of truth to that, because you know, when my kids were in sports, they build relationships with their friends, and guess what? When their friends live 10, 12, 15 miles outside of town, they come to our house and we feed them and we get to know those kids. They get to know us. We build a relationship with them, and those relationships spew over to their parents as well. And when you have those relationships, you truly become a community. And so that's not a bad thing. Those fundraisers, a lot of times we don't like to do them, but they're so important, not only for the child, but for the parent, to build that community around them. And you learn to depend and trust in the other parents and those children trust in you. And when they trust in you, even though you're not their parent, they'll do whatever it takes not to disappoint you. And that's important. That's important when you're talking about safety and security and well-being of your children, knowing that your child is at a house with some parents that have morals and ethics, and they're gonna get where they need to be, and they're gonna get back home safely, so.
Let me ask you this, and maybe Tanya, I'll just go to you. As a school board member, if a group came to you and said, we want to start one more thing, are you going to support that?
If a group came to me as an individual, or?
No,
or
as to the school board, I'm
Okay.
just addressing you as
Okay.
a school board
Okay.
member.
I was
They
gonna
come and they want to start one more thing. Are we
Well-
at the healthy balance?
Well, again, at that time, I think it would be incumbent upon the board to consider, is this an area where we're lacking? Is this one more thing, whether it be a sport or a club or, you know, a leadership group, is this an area where we're lacking? And is that extracurricular activity going to benefit the students in some way? How many students is it going to benefit? Do we have other things in place already that meet this need? Again, I think it's such a balance, because you want to focus on academics, but you do want to generate from the school district those positive, productive members of society, and you have to learn to be a part of something, right? And so I think it would just have to be based upon whether the need was there and how many people was it going to serve.
Bill, do you know what the most expensive extracurricular activity is in the school system?
Sure, the football, of course, you know, with the grounds keeping up with that football field and all the upkeep on that. I mean, it's a large area to mow and keep up year-round, striping and upgrade and the equipment, so it's the largest one. But it also has the most number of students that it supports as well, so to get 60, 70 kids out there on one sport, it's great, the camaraderie is great, you know, the town, you know, really supports it. You'll see the stands filled with parents and other students that prior years to come back and watch the games, so, yeah. I think that's the most expensive one, but it also gets the best, you know, engagement.
And brings in
Yep.
We talk about the parents being involved, the school board being involved, so let's move to the area of the fact that the school board is but one organization in this community wanting to move the community forward. What is the school board's relationship to the city council, a chamber, Main Street? How can these boards better interact in order to accomplish some of the mutual goals that the community has? And Ray, let me ask you.
Well, I think you already have opportunities for internships and work experience between the student body and the community, the businesses in that area. I think we'd have to look at, you know, the specifics. For instance, the homecoming parade just popped in my head. You know, here you've got the school, it's an activity for the kids, it's an activity for the past alumni, but it brings people into the Holden. So if you work with the city council, I know they're very good about putting up the flags and putting up the banners and things like that. They're the interplay between Holden right here and the parade was an example of that. I think there are probably opportunities. The other opportunity, of course, is in the civics area and letting the students see what it's like to see county government operating or the city council operating. And not just get what they read in the paper, but actually see the dynamics that go on as people make hard decisions and prioritize things and develop that critical thinking. One of the recent school board meetings, they had the leadership class come, and they do everything from recycling to interacting with that, and it's a prime opportunity for them to get out in the community and see what's going on. Likewise, I guess I'd have to brainstorm a bit and work with the superintendent and make sure we can step on any toes to see what county government or the city government could do to contribute back this way. You've already heard the full plate the city council has, so it might be something you just have to look for an opportunity.
Mike, would you address that same question as to how you see the different boards in this community working together, and how would you make it happen?
Well, keeping in mind that the Holden School District encompasses a lot of square miles, and it is really the economic engine in western Johnson County. Stall Specialty used to be when it came to employees, but really the school district employs, I think, as many, if not more, employees than Stalls does now. And so I would like to engage with the city council in ways of establishing housing for a lot of our staff and our teachers, because a lot of our staff and teachers drive from outside of Holden and the Holden School District to come to work every day, because there's not enough housing available in this area to support their needs. And so working with, I know the council was talking about the small houses / tiny houses, separate from the veterans, but maybe helping develop some lots or bring some lots forward where we could have some single-family homes built that can be sold to these staff members and the teachers in the district. Move them into this area, which is going to increase our economic boom in this, because now they're buying their groceries here, they're shopping here, they're getting gas here, and it generates more funds for the city, and so it's a win-win. To bring that all together, it's going to take us sitting down with the city council and developing a plan on what that looks like and how we can develop that for that to occur. So that would be my first start, because that way it's helping the school district, it's helping the employees of the school district, and it's helping the city and the citizens of Holden support their own tax base right here locally.
Tanya, do you want to add anything to the combination, getting the groups together that truly affect the city?
Well, I think that Ray and Mike both made some excellent points as to the what that could happen. I think in order to facilitate that, it might be a good idea for, and I don't know all the rules yet, because like I said, I haven't gone to any of the education classes yet, but it might be a good idea to make sure that we're all plugged into one another's committees or boards, that we have a Holden School Board member that goes to the city council meetings, and that we have a city council member that comes to the school board meetings, and that we make sure that we're effectively plugged in so that there is that free flow of information, and we can collaborate together and put our minds together and make things happen that maybe we wouldn't have thought in a million years as a school board could be done, but the city council could say, oh yeah, no problem, we can take care of that. So I think when you get a meeting of the minds and you have people that can work well together, and you have that collaborative spirit and that ability to give and take, I think that's important.
I want to leave this with one last question. If you are elected to the board, some of you new, some of you re-elected, what issue that challenges the board is of special interest to you? Let's start with Bill. You've been on, so let's start with you. Do you have a special area of interest as a school board member that you want to see addressed?
Continue addressing, I guess, as well say, we've known for a number of years that we have a reduced number of students in our district, back to the numbers when we were back in 1991. So it was the year I graduated, and always sticks with me. With that, we had a significant of the staff that we have back then is different we have staff today. I know we've made a lot of adjustments here lately. We're giving some of our staff members additional duties because we've attrited a few folks, and we've looked at the budget numbers and we figured out what we can do to get the budget back up. We want our reserve to be a comfortable level. We've spent down enough to we feel a little bit uncomfortable as a board, and we need to get that surplus built back up so we can handle those downfalls in funding. So if we can work on ways of tightening up our budget, looking at some expenses that we have continued to kind of overlook, and maybe take a few of those things out, and they've done that already. I think if we continue that trend, we'll get to a reserve that we'll feel comfortable with going forward, and then we know as a district we're sound for at least that year when the budget's kind of in a unknown status. So.
Mike, what special interest might you have?
Well, first of all, it has to be the budget. I mean, you've heard from everyone that's up here tonight that no money, no programs, so budget has to be number one. My personal passion is safety and security. I spent 8 years as a school resource officer in this district for the Holden Police Department. I have a huge concern for safety and security for our children, not only in and on school grounds, but also in their homes and what's going on at home. And so whatever I can do to help facilitate meetings or facilitate with parents, with administrators to try to figure out how we can address those safety and security measures and the situations that the children are dealing with at home that maybe they need to be removed or there needs to be some type of intervention there. That's of utmost importance to me, just for the simple fact if a child does not feel safe at home or at school, they're not going to learn. Their mind is everywhere but where it should be. And so I feel like that's, out of all the things, that's what I can bring to the table, and that's kind of my passion, is safety and security.
Ray, you would be a new one. What is of special interest to you?
Of special interest to me, and I think a challenge, is retaining the best possible staff, the teachers that care about anything. I mean, budgets, I mean, we've heard it all in my term, there's no bucks, no Buck Rogers. But we're going to fight through those budget issues and set the priorities and do what you have to do. But every team I've worked on, it's always about the people. So we're going to have to retain the best administration, and we've already talked about laying on additional duties and things like that. But there are people with passion in their heart for these children, and these children are going to face a dynamic employment environment. I mean, they're in a dynamic learning environment now. You've got family pressures, you've got social pressures that we never dealt with. But today's teachers are trained to deal with that and assist. We just have to retain them here and make them feel welcome and part of the staff first and the community second. So I guess that would be my passion, is that we work the personnel issues, and as we make hard financial decisions, we don't lose sight of the academic progress of the children, building well-rounded with work ethic and integrity, and this critical thinking to adapt to that future environment we're going to throw them into as adults. That's probably my passion.
Tanya, maybe you've already talked to us about your passion, but address that issue one more
Yeah.
time. It seems to be of special interest to you.
I think I wear my passion on my sleeve. Again, I have a heart for the children, and I just truly believe that we have a system here. We have a great school system, and I think that we just need to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that we are all here to educate the children, no matter what. Everything we do, the budgets, the extracurricular pieces that make them a well-rounded individual. We are here to educate the children, and I don't mean just the children that score in the top 10%. I mean all the children. And when there is a learning mechanism, a curriculum that's not working for all the children, then I think it's incumbent on us to look at those children that are scoring in the below basic and the basic. But they can do it. I know they can. And if we give them the education that they need, think of the limitless possibilities that they can have in their life. It's a wonder, the limitless possibilities they can have. And that is where my heart is. That is where my passion is. I want every student to succeed. I want no child left behind. And maybe that's a big, lofty goal, but that's where my heart is. And if I am fortunate enough to be elected as a school board member in this district, I can promise you that I will pour my heart and my soul and my sweat and everything I have into that to make that happen. Let's thank them.